All right, here we go. We're starting. This is off the cuff, not off the cuff. Fuck. This is
TOC Talks.
this is talk. Jesus, I am thinking about work. We have that other thing that we do at work called off the cuff.
No, really? Did you start that?
Yeah,
That makes sense.
it's just like a little thing that my coworker and I do, where we go around the community and ask people questions. So this is not off the cuff. This is TOC Talks. I don't know what episode. It doesn't really matter because I think we're like doing a bunch and then we're putting them in scheduling them all together.
Yes,
However,
could be 6 or 7
Yeah.
or something.
who the heck knows?
Welcome back.
Yeah. What is new? It has been a few weeks since tour ended, and so I feel like we're kind of just getting back into the swing of things. Oh, I like what you did with the.
Oh yeah, some phallic vegetables.
I like that. Good idea. Good idea. But yeah, I feel like we haven't really even talked a whole lot because what happens when we are on tour is that we're confined into a small space for a long ass period. And then we get home, and I think the last thing we want to do is hang out with each other at all. So we kind of go our separate ways for a few weeks and decompress and go back to work, do our thing, and then we come back. And so this is, I think, the first time we've really done anything productive since
Yeah,
then.
we haven't done a podcast. We did some writing. We had the show, like we came back in a week and a half later. We had that show in
Oh,
Spokane.
yeah.
So yeah, we have been doing stuff. It's just, yeah, we always need that like 2 or 3 weeks of like decompression after tour.
Mm-hmm.
And this one specifically was pretty rough.
It was a little rough. There's really good parts to it.
Yeah.
And there was really kind of bummer parts to it. But that's kind of the name of the game when you are a smaller band that doesn't tour full time and is also doing a headliner. So that was kind of the idea for this podcast in general, is just talking about tour and maybe tour in the 30s, touring when you're 30. Because
Yeah.
things change a lot between touring when you're 20 and touring when you're 30. And I'm 32. TJ, you're 31.
Yep.
Parker is 26, and Andy, I think, is 30.
Parker just turned 27.
No, did he really?
Pretty sure. He's 4.
Oh, you're right.
Turned
Because
27.
that's right. Okay, my bad. So Parker's the youngest, but things change a lot, and so I figured we just talk about kind of the way that we as a band tour, and maybe the things that have changed over the years, and maybe the way that the industry has changed over the years with how touring works, because it is not the same as it was in 2012, 13, 14. So
Yeah. And this is a pretty like nuanced conversation overall too. Like we're not, when we like are talking about stuff, we're not throwing anybody under the bus or like pointing fingers at anybody to blame. Like the situation and like what we experienced on tour was because of the size of our band. And it's just like the consequences of being a band that doesn't actively tour 300 days out of the year, not having big tours that you get offers on. Like there's so many other components to what makes a tour work really well and be productive and financially
yeah,
worth it too. So there's so many aspects of it.
there's a lot of stuff that we get to see that most of our fans never see. And there's lots of YouTube channels out there that go into more specifics, like Tank the Tech, I think. He's one that really talks about kind of that side of the industry, the touring industry. But there's a lot of stuff that we have to deal with on the back end to even get a tour to work. And it's sometimes not exactly fun. It's not exactly a walk in the park either, because there's a lot of politics involved. And we're not talking about like right and left politics. We're talking about like friends that are friends with friends and cliques and all the things that kind of come with like being in the know-how, being the cool kid on the block, being the up and coming band, having a manager or a booking agent that's like really good, needing to do a favor for another booking agent. Like there's just like a lot of politics, but it's not like political, I guess you could say. Where do you want to start with this?
I don't know. Like there's a huge aspect to us touring just living in North Idaho, because we usually start in Denver, right? Like,
yeah.
So there's that aspect too. Like just any tour that we usually do, it starts out with us just being exhausted right off the bat. Like that's just kind of the nature of being in a band that's in the Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
So the drives are like super long. Like this last tour, they were pretty brutal. We did like some overnight drives. Like tour is a lot of work. Like you're just sitting on your ass so much of the time. But like when your day is, I'll just take it from like the beginning. Like wake up in the hotel, get coffee, drive 8 hours, go to like hurry up to get to a venue, figure out how the parking situation, like load in merch, like set up merch, sound check. Like there's so much just like sitting around, hanging out at one space, but it's like the most exhausting because you're working 18, 19 out of the 24 hours a day.
Yeah. And like working is literally like the part after everyone leaves and you're packing up your gear at 2 a.m. Like that's still working. And then driving another 2 or 3 hours to get a head start for the next day. That's still working. And then you sleep for 4 hours and then you get back to it. So yeah, it's like 20 hours out of the day is really what's happening. And I guess technically like we're driving, so we're just sitting on our asses and feeling like we're not working, but we also can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like everyone's always like, oh, I'll just work for, cause like my job and Parker's job, revolve a lot about like marketing and video editing and stuff. Like that's kind of what we do. And so we're always like, well, we'll do all that stuff while we're driving. And it never works out that way because you got all these bumps and you got construction and then you're just going over bumps. And then
how we tour, like that we also have to be very specific of like, this is like our personal experience because
true.
We tour, we just got a van, like, so, and we rent a U-Haul. Like there's a lot of aspects to it that make it impossible for us specifically to be able to work on the road.
I misspoke because there's a lot of bands that have their own driver. We don't have our own driver. We do it ourselves. And there's a lot of bands that tour in like a bandwagon or a tour bus where they actually have like a a table where they can do whatever they got to do while they're driving. So yes.
Like you just reach around, grab your drink out of the fridge, continue working. Like, there's not like, oh, we got to stop to pee. Like there's none of that. You're just driving, and we haven't experienced that. So maybe we're speaking out of turn too. Like, so
I've never.
We haven't experienced the luxury, but
yeah, I think I've only been in one legitimate tour bus. That was at Warped Tour when we were following Warped Tour in like 2013. And I think we were in some tour. I don't know. It was like,
oh gosh,
we like got in somehow. Yeah. And we weren't on Warped Tour or anything, but we were able to somehow get into the parking lots because Kevin Lyman allowed it because we were like selling merch to the line and playing in front of the crowd to the line. Like it was this really weird thing we did before we actually started really touring. I think it was before Saloon even came out. This was like Arrows for Bullets era. And
I think it was right before CoverGirl came out.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I remember talking about that music video released while we were doing that Warped Tour thing.
Yeah, that was crazy. And that was when we didn't even have, like, I was the only one with a smartphone. Yeah. So we're all like passing my phone around to like read comments on CoverGirl when it came out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So like I've only been on a tour bus once. I mean, Sleepwave had their like weird little tour bus, but that was like a big old RV camper that they had when
it was different.
And I've been on like a bandwagon a few times, but for most of like our career, we've just done the 15 passenger van and it's worked for us. But that doesn't really reflect everybody. Everyone's got their own way of doing things, but yeah, it's definitely hard because you're just on the road working double time, overtime for weeks on end. And it takes a toll, especially when you're in your 30s. Cause like 10 years ago, it felt like nothing to be able to just play a show and go into, that was the other thing. We did Walmart parking lots all the time. And now we don't do them because A, I don't think a lot of them allow it anymore. Yeah. B, we don't have bunk beds in our van anymore. And C, we just are too old to deal with that shit. Like it is uncomfortable. It's hot. Like I want an AC. Like what's your preferable AC? I was going to ask you that.
Oh, like the temperature?
Like what's your preferable temperature?
Like at night colder, like 67's fine.
Okay.
I know you like it really cold.
Yeah, I'm like 64 if I can.
Yeah, Parker has his face blown by the fan all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm not that cold. No. And it dries out my sinuses if I'm like direct wind.
Oh.
Like even in my car with my AC, like it dries my sinuses out really bad and I'll get bloody noses. So but yeah, no, but during the day, no. Because like my house right now, Parker likes to keep it like 67 upstairs. So the basement where I'm spend most of my time is like 65.
Oh, yeah.
So it's fucking freezing. I actually have my space heater on while it's 95 degrees outside.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the opposite here because we have it at, I mean, it's at 69 right now. Kevin's perfect temperature. But it's like 10 degrees hotter upstairs. So we have an extra AC unit up there that we put on at night.
Yeah. You have to. Yeah.
It's just because it's in the cabin and the insulation situation. There is no insulation. It is just logs and the open
Wood.
Yep. And you can literally see like through some of these, you can see the actual outside because it's an old from the 60s or something. So yeah, we just get the outdoor air coming in. That was a weird side note.
I kind of want to explain where we're at as a band as far as like touring goes, because we aren't getting offers from bands to like open for their headlining tours. Like we're not getting offers to do stuff like that. If we do tour, it's going to be something smaller. With this last tour that we did, there were shows that were like super disheartening. And it's no offense to like promoters, venues, anything like that. It's just like when you drive 8 hours or overnight and then you get to a venue and they don't have the minimum amount of equipment that is required to sound good, right? Like we're doing a disservice to our fans in a sense because they're not getting the best experience and the best sound that we produce. And there's like even songs that we've discussed like cutting during those shows where the sound system's not great because it's not going to sound good. Like we can't play Unwanted Again when the sound system doesn't sound good because a lot of that is backing tracks. So, and there's so many aspects and the fans aren't getting a great experience. Yeah. Like, so we're doing a disservice to you guys as fans.
Yeah. We want you to hear the full thing. And like, a lot of times we have really cool, like big, like bass drops and all these things that require a sub. And if the PA system has only got 2 little speakers and there's not even enough inputs for all 3 of our 3 of our vocals, we can't even play. We can't actually play. So then we're like, okay, what songs does Andy not scream on? Because we only have 2 microphones that we can use. Like that kind. It's like that's some of the venues we played were that bare bones. And it's not every show, but we're just not a band that has like, we're not the biggest band in the world. And it's hard to explain that to people because people will think, I've known you guys for so long and like, why aren't you guys bigger? And it's like, well, we're not bigger because we might not just sit right with the majority of, the world in the sense that our music is a little different. We're never really trying to like chase after the newest trend of music.
Well, and there's so much else out there.
There's
like,
so
we
much
don't ever
music.
Expect to be and like I guess that's kind of part of the conversation too. Like we don't have expectations like when we get to venues for it to be like to be treated like royals. Like I don't want the conversation to come across like that at all because it's like very surprising when it's like, oh, we got a pizza from the venue. Like that's fucking awesome. Like we're super grateful for what we do get, but at the end of the day, for me, it's about just like we want to make sure that our fans are getting the best experience from our live show. And if you're going to pay $20 to see us, like, and drive 4 hours just to get to the show, and then can't even hear what we're playing, like, that sucks.
And that's the big sacrifice we have to make sometimes because we look at these big stretches of, land that we have to cross to get to a big city, a big market to play a really good show, but it's like a 15-hour drive. And we're like, well, how do we split that up? So then we go to an in-between market, which is in the middle of Arkansas or something. And that's when things get weird because it's like in the middle of nowhere, no one has really a venue, but there's a person that really likes our band that wants to put something together. So then you got a bunch of locals that are coming, that have never seen us, but also it's a pizza place, which is exactly what happened on this past tour. We played a pizza place and it wasn't a bad show. Like the promoter was awesome. It was great, but it was very bare bones. And it's like, do we do that and make a little bit of extra money to get to the actual, like, big market, the big city we're trying to get to the next day? Or do we just sit at a hotel and lose money by not doing anything? And so it's kind of like the sacrifices you got to make, but we want the audience to have a good time. So it's like, it's so hard to know if you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And we never know until we get there. It's not like we can go and just like teleport to these areas and go, oh yeah, this all looks great. This venue looks great. The PA system's awesome. Oh, the sound guy. Oh, cool. Let me like, interview the sound guy. You can't do any of that stuff.
There's only so much you can see on Google Maps. Like,
yeah. You're just kind of hoping that the place you play is good, and you're hoping that, the people that come out to see you, get good parking and don't get, then we're not in a sketchy part of town where their cars might be getting broken into. Man, there's so many variables. And I hate when I hear things like, oh, I got robbed right after the ongoing concept show or something. There's just so many things. Like it's so out of our control, but we're trying to be understanding. So that's kind of the weird life of being a band that's been around for a long time, but isn't the biggest band in the world. It's weird. And there's so many of us. That's the thing too, is that there's this extra glass ceiling tier of bands. And a lot of these bands opened for us 10 years ago, and now they're fucking huge as hell. And that tier is just a whole other level. Like I can't even express to you how much of a level is from where we're at to that level. It's like, I don't even know. I feel like you almost have to join the Illuminati at that point. Like
it's so unrealistic for us to even comprehend.
But there's so many of us that are kind of in this like weird little C tier, I would call it. Because those are all like A markets, and like Taylor Swift is in the S tier. Yeah. You know what I mean? Different like level. Billie Eilish and shit. That's S, but A and B, and then we're kind of in C, and then D is really just like local bands. Like we're not really anything crazy. So if you guys are
just above a local band,
yeah, pretty much,
been around a lot longer.
Yeah, and we're okay with that because really we like to have personal lives. We like to have families, and we want to be able to enjoy, the things that come beyond just doing this 20-hour a day routine over and over and over and over and over 300 days a year. That's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. I want to experience life. I want to be able to enjoy, like gardening and growing tomatoes and stuff. Like I don't want to see a windshield for days on end. Yeah. It's just not realistic. And for, I think, everyone's mental health in general, it's important to accept that and be able to be happy with the little things that we get, which is we get to tour like once in a while, and that's awesome. And we enjoy it, and we get to bond with each other as a band, but there's no way that we could do that all the time. Yeah. It's just not feasible.
Not in the conditions that we do tour. Like if we were to do something more actively touring, it would have to be with a driver, doing decent venues. Like we would have to just be at a different level as a band for that to even be remotely realistic.
And you have to make money to even make this stuff happen. We aren't making enough money to be able to hire a driver. We aren't making
a merch person or a sound person or like we have to do all of it. So tour is just fucking exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Doing everything yourself.
To do all of it.
And the other thing that a lot of people don't understand too is that when I say politics, there's something that kind of gets overshadowed too, is that when you're trying to get onto a direct support tour or like just a support tour in general where you're not the headliner, there's one thing in particular that people don't understand, and that is some of these bands are literally buying on to these tours, which is eliminating a spot for us to get on because we have to organically get there. And we're not saying like, oh, we paid the headliner $1,000. No, some of these bands are paying the headliner $15,000, $20,000 to be on the tour. And I don't know why I keep looking at this camera, but it's just for some reason it's like in my peripheral, and I just want to look at it like a person. But
that makes sense.
But it's crazy. Like we're talking, thousands of dollars just to get on the tour, and that doesn't account for all of the stuff they got to do, like getting a van and
all your expenses,
hotels and everything. And so that leaves us with nothing because we typically have lost those spots because it was like, oh, you can be like a 1 out of 4 on a really big tour. And we're like, oh, hell yeah. And it's like, oh, sorry guys, this band with a bunch of rich mommies and daddies came in and bought on for $15,000. And I'm like, son of a bitch. And I'm not trying to say that the industry is full of rich people, but I kind of am at the same time because it's typically, if you do the diving and you ask enough questions, you do find out that there's always money somewhere with all of these bands. There's a ton of bands that have done it organically and have succeeded. Very true. But more often than not, you see it with there's someone that's got.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like if you have like a certain amount of success as an artist, like you've probably put a lot of money into it, at least in today's day and age.
Yeah.
You know, like it kind of just makes sense. Like
yeah,
the bands that are popping off are the ones that can put $10,000 a month into marketing.
exactly. And it's the same thing with acting too. Like, you start to do the deep dive and you're like, oh, it's because, this actor's in this big movie because their dad is, the head of this studio. And, so
there's like some sort of nepotism. And then also like the privilege of like, if you do grow up wealthy, you have the opportunity to not work in your teenage years, like you have everything like handed to you. If you have like a nanny taking care of your every whim, like you're afforded the opportunity to like sit and write music for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Because you don't have responsibility, So it's just you start out at such a different level when you are wealthy.
And we got really lucky because my parents are musicians themselves, and they were very gracious to build a music room for us, and they have supported us a lot. Not maybe financially, like helping us get like stuff, but they've built a space for us, and that was probably the biggest contribution that we got from our parents. Also, just like my dad is such a DIY guy that he helped with so many things, like getting our van all set up and like the cool trailer. If you guys remember the whole like trailer that we used to have, we did like that digital tour bus. Remember that?
Yeah.
So we had this really cool trailer. We had like a TV and microwave and fridge and stuff. My dad helped build all of that, like, and Kyle too. But we got really lucky with parents that are very, very like supportive. We got lucky there. But we come from I would say a lower middle class income family, and in North Idaho, that's not a lot either.
Yeah,
like
low. Yeah, what we grew up with. If that was in California, you'd be like homeless.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just like our parents being like supportive, not even financially, but just like taking us to like our first shows, bringing our gear with us. And like the first like show that we played outside of Spokane was Boise, and they like drove us down there like because Parker was too young. There's so many things that yeah, we
got really lucky.
We got super lucky.
We have great parents. I don't know where we're going with this conversation, because this is honestly the type of conversation that TJ and I and the rest of the band have like while we're driving on tour. Yeah. Maybe that's why it's fresh, because we talk about this stuff a lot. Because it's like you're driving and you're going, man, I'm literally like missing work. I'm losing money because I'm not working right now, and we're going to a show that we don't even know if there's gonna be anyone there.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are we doing this?
I've had burgers and pizza the last 4 days, and that's it.
Oh, we're just carved up and just shitting our pants the entire time. It's so much fun.
It is like tour now though is so much more comfortable. Like this last one was just exhausting because we were also like following the heat. Everywhere we went. So that was an aspect of it. You just don't think about like parking at a venue being such a big ass deal, and then you have to walk a quarter mile to bring your gear to the venue, and then that was there's so many things.
That was a weird show. You don't know the environment too, so you're like, should someone stay at our van all the time? Because if we leave it unattended, is it going to get stolen? Like I've never bought an AirTags before, but I did for this tour, and it's weird that I feel so uncertain of how the rest of the country is, I guess.
Yeah.
And honestly, it wasn't that bad, but I'm not going to take the risk. We can't afford it. If we lose, if our van and trailer got stolen, we would basically not be a band anymore. We'd have to call it quits, because all of the stuff we have, everything we've built up is in that van and that U-Haul.
Especially in the last like year that we've really upgraded a lot of our equipment.
Yeah.
And
I can't afford to
be devastating.
Yeah. I don't think we could we could get a personal loan to try to rebuy it back, but it is crazy because you see this stuff happen a lot. A band gets their van and trailer stolen. Luckily, there's things like GoFundMe and things like that help help bands out. But we are like right on the cusp of not be existing all the time. Yeah, and another thing too is like people think like, okay, so I live in this cabin. This is great, right? Like this has nothing to do with the band. We have made no money as a band ever. We have never.
Oh yeah, no.
We have never made a single penny from the band in the entire time we have been here. Not from the label. We still haven't made a single penny from the label. And that's not the label's fault. That's just because that's how labels work. And we aren't the biggest band in the world. And even from tour, we all do it as a sacrifice for you guys. And that's just how it's been for the entire time that we've been a band. And that's why we do everything ourselves, because we don't have the money to hire someone to do a music video. We don't have the money to have someone produce a record.
Although, in fairness, I think part of that is just to do with you were a control freak.
Well, I am a control freak for sure. But if we were to go with the person that did our music video, we got to drop $5,000, $6,000, $7,000.
Exactly,
I can't.
It just makes more sense for how we do things.
Yeah. And that's a big reason why we've been able to do what we do with so little, is because we've taken up different, jack of all trades kind of thing. And yeah, we're not the best. I'm not the best music video guy. I'm not the best producer in the world. Honestly, I see these people coming out with these music videos these days. I don't even know what the hell, I don't even know. I don't even freaking know.
That's what makes it uniquely TOC, right?
I guess that's
just kind of figured it out along the way.
I try to sleep at night thinking it that way, but I do have moments where I'm like imposter syndrome big time. Like I'm not good enough anymore for this.
You can see your growth as like a director going from Arrows Before Bullets to...
That's true. The thing though, the thing that's weird is that like I'm only in music video mode like when we shoot a music video.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's like maybe once a year, once every other year, maybe like all of a sudden like 3 months of my time is just dedicated to music videos. And so like that muscle, I guess, is not being like exercised.
Yeah.
And same with producing. Like I am in that mode, like kind of here and there, but then you get these producers that do it day in, day out, every day. And they have just mastered their craft. And same with music videos. And I'm just like, okay, cool. I haven't done a music video in 2 years. Let's see. How do we do this? ISO, aperture. What camera is cool these days? Let's see what's going on. I'm like going, like learning.
Trying to get updated all over again.
I'm like, wow, shit. So it's just weird, like trying to catch up with the times and like stay relevant in the, like what's popping as far as like, I don't know, like is like green screen stuff cool right now? Is like animation cool right now? Or is just like, are people going back to like film stuff, more like organic in camera stuff, which is what I'm really good at. I'm good at like capturing it all in camera. That's all I can do. I can't do After Effects.
Post, yeah.
I don't know how to do that shit. So there's just so many things that go into it. But in this conversation, I think it'd be kind of cool if we did this conversation with Parker and Andy too.
Yeah,
to hear their side. I know that I've been hosting this every time. I think it'd be cool to have me not be involved and have like you and Andy just talk, or you and Parker just talk. Because I feel like I kind of take over the conversation sometimes.
Oh yeah, but when it's you and I, like we'll just talk forever too. So
that's true. Well, is there anything else you want to say?
No. I mean, I guess this is the first one that'll come out after we toured. So thanks to everyone that came out and saw us on tour.
Yeah.
Hopefully you had a good time and didn't get anything stolen or didn't have to go to the hospital afterwards.
Yeah. No, we appreciate our fans so much, and it's always a blessing to see that people still care about us, 3,000 miles away. It's so weird how that works. People coming out and saying like things like, I drove 8 hours to get here. Like, I don't know if I'll ever see you guys again. Just so you all know, we're not going anywhere. Like, we're not breaking up or anything. Like, we will come back unless one of us dies. Like, I don't think there's any potential of us quitting.
Yeah.
And again, we have learned our lesson from the past. We've all grown. We're all close now, closer than we've ever been. There's no reason for us to, throw in the towel. But it comes down to family and kids and jobs. So we might not tour as much, but we'll be out there and we'll definitely be putting out content.
Yeah. I mean, and it was super different this time because we have started Discord and Patreon. So like to like actually meet some of the people from Discord, seeing like that community kind of flourish in like the shows themselves and seeing people communicate with each other because they know each other from Discord. Like there's so many cool new things that have come out of doing all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%. Cool. All right. Well, thanks you guys for joining. This has been TOC Talks with TJ and Dawson, and we'll see you on the flippity flip.